Welcome back to Dollar Dash Destinations. I'm Dashing Dane, and this is
Dashing Dorsey.
All right, fellow adventurers, today we're diving headfirst into the stunning and, let's be honest, sometimes pricey land of the long white cloud, New Zealand.
You've picked a real gem known for its incredible landscapes and thrilling adventures, but as you probably know, those epic experiences can sometimes come with a hefty price tag.
Exactly, and that's where we come in. We've been digging through a ton of resources, from travel blogs to budget tips, and we're here to distill the most valuable nuggets of wisdom for you.
Think of this as your cheat sheet to experiencing the magic of New Zealand without completely draining your bank account.
But let's get real for a second. One of the things that popped up in our research was the cost of, well, pretty much everything. Food, gas, even everyday items. They can be surprisingly expensive in New Zealand.
That's true, and it's mainly because a lot of goods have to be imported. But here's the good news. There are some clever ways to offset those costs and still have an incredible trip. Let's start with transportation, shall we?
All right, so imagine this. You're cruising along those breathtaking New Zealand roads in a camper van, winding your hair freedom at your fingertips.
Consisting
and
of
you're
two
doing it
large
for
islands
next to
and
nothing.
700.
Sounds like a dream, right?
Right.
Well, it's totally doable. One of the coolest things we discovered is this concept of relocating rental vehicles. Basically, rental companies need to move their camper vans and cars between locations, and they'll often let you drive them for a ridiculously low price, sometimes even free.
Wait, seriously? So you can just road trip across New Zealand in a sweet camper van for free? That sounds almost too good to be true. What's the catch?
There are a few things to keep in mind. You usually have a limited time frame to complete the relocation, and you might have to stick to a specific route, but hey, that just adds to the adventure, right?
I guess you're right. Plus, think of all the money you're saving on transportation that leaves more room in the budget for, say, bungee jumping or trying some delicious local cuisine.
Exactly. And speaking of camper vans, if you're thinking about a longer stay in New Zealand, it might actually be more cost-effective to buy one outright.
Hold on, buy a camper van. Is that a bit extreme?
Hear me out. You can often find used camper vans for sale from other travelers who are ending their trips. It's like a little community of van lifers passing the torch, so to speak. And if you're staying for a few months, it could end up being cheaper than renting. Plus, you get to customize your van and make it your own little home on wheels.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal, but what about when you're not cruising down the highway? Where do you park this awesome camper van of yours?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. New Zealand has this fantastic system called freedom camping, which allows you to park your self-contained vehicle in designated areas for free.
Wait, so you're telling me I can just park my camper van in some of the most scenic spots in New Zealand and sleep under the stars without paying a dime?
Pretty much, but there's a crucial detail here. Your camper van needs to be certified self-contained. That basically means it has its own toilet and water facilities, so you're not relying on public restrooms or dumping waste irresponsibly.
That makes sense.
Ah.
We wouldn't want to be those tourists who ruin it for everyone else, right? So how do you know where you can and can't freedom camp? There are websites and apps that list all the designated freedom camping spots along with the rules and regulations for each area. It's all about being responsible and respecting the environment.
Okay, freedom camping sounds pretty epic, but what if you want a bit more infrastructure? Like, what if you need a hot shower or, toilet that flushes?
Don't worry, New Zealand has you covered there too. They have this amazing network of campsites managed by the Department of Conservation, or DOC. These campsites are super affordable, often located in some of the most picturesque spots, and offer basic facilities like toilets, showers, and cooking areas. They're a real lifesaver for budget-conscious travelers, and they often have that authentic off-the-grid vibe that many people are looking for.
So it's like getting the best of both worlds. You're immersed in nature, but still have some basic comforts. Now, I've heard some people talk about these DOC campsite passes. What's the deal with those?
Yes. If you're planning on spending a decent amount of time exploring New Zealand's great outdoors, the DOC campsite pass can be a real game changer. It's basically like a subscription for campsites. You pay a one-time fee, and then you get access to a whole network of DOC campsites for a certain period.
So if I'm planning on doing a lot of hiking and camping, it sounds like that pass could save me a ton of money.
Absolutely. It's a no-brainer for serious outdoor enthusiasts. But let's not forget about another important aspect of budget travel: food.
Oh yes, food. New Zealand has some incredible cuisine, but I know eating out for every meal can really put a dent in your travel fund.
That's where a little bit of resourcefulness comes in handy. Instead of constantly hitting up restaurants, why not embrace your inner culinary adventurer and hit up those local farmers markets?
I'm all about farmers markets. But wouldn't it be a bit of a hassle to cook all the time, especially when you're on the move?
It doesn't have to be a chore. Part of the fun of traveling is experiencing new cultures through their food, and with a little planning, you can easily whip up delicious and affordable meals using fresh local ingredients.
Okay, so we've got transportation and accommodation sorted, food is covered. But what about those unique New Zealand experiences I'm talking about, the things that make this country so special? The Maori culture, the breathtaking landscapes, the adventure activities. Surely those things aren't exactly budget-friendly, right?
You'd be surprised. New Zealand has a wealth of free and affordable activities that allow you to immerse yourself in its culture and natural beauty, for example. There are tons of free walking trails that offer incredible views.
Yeah, I've heard New Zealand is a hiker's paradise, but what about something a little more structured? Like, are there any tours or cultural experiences that won't break the bank?
Absolutely. Many towns and cities have free walking tours that give you a great overview of the local history and culture. And if you're interested in Maori culture, you can often find affordable cultural performances or visit marae, which are traditional Maori meeting grounds.
So it's all about doing a little research and being open to experiences that might not be on the typical tourist trail.
Exactly. Sometimes the most authentic and memorable experiences are the ones you stumble upon when you're not following the crowds.
Okay, I'm getting really excited about all the possibilities here. But let's be realistic for a second. Some things in New Zealand are just inherently expensive, like adventure tourism.
True activities like bungee jumping and whitewater rafting can definitely put a strain on your budget. But here's the thing. There are often ways to get discounts or find deals.
Oh, like what spill the beans?
Well, many adventure tourism operators offer discounts for students, backpackers, or groups. And if you're flexible with your dates, you can sometimes snag last-minute deals.
Okay, so it's all about being savvy and doing a little bit of planning. But even with all these tips and tricks, I have to admit, I still feel a bit overwhelmed by the idea of planning a budget-friendly trip to New Zealand.
I understand it can seem daunting, but remember the key is to prioritize.
Prioritize, what do you mean?
Think about what's most important to you. Are you all about those epic landscapes and outdoor adventures? Or are you more interested in experiencing the local culture and cuisine? Once you know what you want to focus on, you can start planning your trip accordingly.
That makes sense. So if I'm a hardcore hiker, I might prioritize staying in DOC campsites and invest in a good pair of hiking boots.
Exactly. And if you're a foodie, you might allocate more of your budget to farmers markets and cooking supplies.
I'm starting to see the light here. It's all about customizing your trip to your own interests and budget. But let's say you're on a really tight budget. Are there any absolute must-dos that you wouldn't compromise on, even if it means cutting back in other areas?
For me, it would have to be experiencing the natural beauty of New Zealand, whether it's hiking to a breathtaking viewpoint, kayaking through a fjord, or simply soaking in the views from your camper van window. There's something truly magical about the landscapes here.
I couldn't agree more. Those landscapes are what make New Zealand so special. But those views don't come cheap, do they? I mean, even getting around the country can be expensive. What if you can't afford a camper van or don't feel comfortable driving on the left side of the road?
There are definitely other options you could look into using public transportation, which can be quite affordable, especially if you book in advance.
But isn't public transportation limiting? I mean, you wouldn't have the same freedom to explore as you would with a car.
True, but it can also be a great way to meet locals and experience the country from a different perspective. Plus, you can always rent a car for a few days if you want to explore a specific area in more depth.
Okay, so we've got camper vans, public transportation, and even the option of relocating rental cars that covers a pretty wide range of budgets and travel styles. But what about accommodation? We talked about freedom camping and DOC campsites. But are there any other budget-friendly options?
Absolutely. Hostels are a classic choice for budget travelers, and New Zealand has a fantastic network of hostels, from basic backpacker lodges to more stylish and social options.
I have to admit, I haven't stayed in a hostel in years. I'm not sure I'm ready to go back to bunk beds and shared bathrooms.
Well, hostels have come a long way in recent years. Many of them offer private rooms and en-suite bathrooms, and they're still a great way to save money and meet fellow travelers.
Okay, so hostels are back on the table. What about other alternatives to hotels? Are there any unique or quirky accommodation options that won't break the bank?
New Zealand has a growing number of farm stays and homestays, which can be a fantastic way to experience rural life and connect with local families.
I love that idea. It's like a cultural exchange and a budget-friendly accommodation all rolled into one.
Exactly. And if you're looking for something a little more adventurous, you could even try camping in a backcountry hut.
Wait, those basic shelters in the middle of nowhere, are you sure those are suitable for, normal people?
They're definitely not for everyone, but they offer an incredible opportunity to immerse yourself in nature and experience the raw beauty of New Zealand's wilderness.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these backcountry huts.
Well, they're typically located along hiking trails, and they provide basic shelter, a place to cook, and often stunning views. They're not luxurious, but they're functional and affordable.
So it's like glamping, but without the glam.
You could say that, but remember, backcountry huts require a bit more planning and preparation than your average campsite.
Like, what do you need, special gear or permits?
You'll definitely need some basic hiking gear like a sleeping bag, warm clothing, and food. And some huts require booking in advance, especially during peak season.
Okay, so backcountry huts are on my list of things to research further. But let's get back to basics for a second. We've talked about all these different ways to save money on accommodation, but what about the everyday expenses? Like, how do you avoid those little budget busters that can add up over time?
One of the best things you can do is embrace the DIY spirit.
DIY in what way?
Think about packing lunches and snacks. Instead of buying food on the moon, go make your own coffee in the morning instead of hitting up those expensive cafes, and do laundry in your camper van or hostel instead of using those coin-operated machines.
Okay, those are some great practical tips, but what about souvenirs? I always feel like I need to bring back a little something for everyone back home.
Souvenirs can definitely be a budget buster instead of buying expensive trinkets. Why not collect natural souvenirs like a beautiful shell or a smooth stone from a beach?
That's a great idea. It's a unique and affordable way to remember your trip.
And you could even create a photo album or scrapbook to document your adventures. Those are the best souvenirs of all.
I love that. So it seems like the key to a budget-friendly New Zealand trip is all about planning creativity and a willingness to embrace a more adventurous spirit.
You got it. New Zealand is a country that rewards those who are willing to step outside their comfort zones and explore off the beaten path.
So pack your bags, embrace the unexpected, and get ready for an unforgettable adventure in the land of the long white cloud.
And remember, the best experiences are often the ones you didn't plan for.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground already, from camper van hacks to backcountry hut etiquette. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to a few key areas and see if we can squeeze out a few more golden nuggets of wisdom.
Sounds good to me. What's on your mind?
Well, let's talk about timing. I know New Zealand is a popular destination year-round, but are there any specific times of year that are particularly budget-friendly?
That's a great question. You're right. New Zealand is beautiful no matter when you visit, but traveling during the shoulder seasons, spring and autumn, can often be easier on the wallet.
So basically, avoid the peak summer crowds, and you'll likely find better deals on flights and accommodation.
Exactly. Plus, you'll still get to experience the beauty of New Zealand's landscapes, perhaps with a different perspective. Imagine those rolling hills covered in vibrant autumn foliage or the alpine meadows bursting with spring wildflowers.
Okay, shoulder seasons noted. Now let's revisit accommodation for a moment. We've discussed some great options like camper vans, hostels, and even those charming farm stays. But I'm curious, are there any other hidden gems we might be overlooking?
You know, you're right. Sometimes the best budget-friendly options are the ones that fly under the radar. Have you ever considered staying at holiday parks?
Holiday parks. I'll admit, I always pictured those as being more family-oriented with lots of kids running around.
That's a common misconception. While holiday parks are certainly popular with families, many of them also offer a range of accommodation options that are perfect for budget travelers, from basic campsites to cozy cabins and even motel units.
Interesting. So you're saying holiday parks can actually be a good balance of affordability and comfort?
Absolutely. Plus, they often have great facilities like communal kitchens, laundry rooms, and even swimming pools or hot tubs. And because they're often located in scenic areas, you get to enjoy the best of both worlds, nature and convenience.
All right, I'm adding holiday parks to my list of potential accommodation options. Now I have a confession to make. As much as I love the idea of cooking up gourmet meals from farmers market finds, I know there will be days when I'm just too tired or busy to even think about chopping vegetables. Any tips for those moments when eating out is the only option?
I hear you. Even the most dedicated budget travelers deserve a break from the kitchen. Sometimes, here's a little trick I learned from a seasoned New Zealand traveler. Keep an eye out for those early bird specials or lunch deals.
Oh yeah, those classic restaurant promotions. I always forget about those.
They can be a real lifesaver for budget-conscious foodies. Many restaurants offer discounted meals during off-peak hours, so you can still enjoy a taste of local cuisine without blowing your budget.
Brilliant. So to recap, we've got shoulder season travel, holiday parks, and early bird specials. Anything else we should add to our budget-savvy toolkit?
One last piece of advice, don't underestimate the power of free activities. New Zealand is full of incredible experiences that don't cost a dime.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, for starters, there are countless hiking trails that offer breathtaking views. Many towns and cities have free museums and art galleries, and don't forget about the beaches, swimming, sunbathing, building sandcastles. Those are all free and fun activities that the whole family can enjoy.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes we get so caught up in planning big-ticket activities that we forget about the simple pleasures.
Exactly. Remember, the key to a successful budget trip is all about striking a balance. Indulge in a few splurges here and there, but also embrace the free and affordable experiences that New Zealand has to offer.
Well said. I think we've covered just about everything in this deep dive into budget-friendly New Zealand travel. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off?
Just this, don't let the fear of expenses hold you back from experiencing the magic of New Zealand. With a little planning, creativity, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected, you can have an unforgettable adventure without breaking the bank.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So, fellow adventurers, pack your bags, embrace the Kiwi spirit, and get ready to discover the beauty and wonder of New Zealand, all while staying on budget. And that's it for this deep dive into Dollar Dash destinations. Until next time, keep dashing.
And keep it budget friendly.